What's good, YouTubers and YouTubettes? This is JB Sports, back again with another one. Big news in the great state of Texas as Dallas's own former unified welterweight champion, Errol Spence Jr., has a dance partner. He will move up in weight, move up from welterweight to junior middleweight, and campaign at 154 pounds and take on WBC and WBO junior middleweight champion Sebastian Fundura, who upset the apple cart in a very good, exciting fight, a fan-friendly fight. When you talk about blood, sweat, and tears, those three words are thrown around a lot in the sport of boxing, but we really saw that in Fundura's last fight versus Tim Tszyu. That was a great matchup. Both guys laid it on the line. It was a blood fest, a blood bath, and Fundura was able to come out on top in large part because the cut that Tim Tszyu sustained was leaking into his eye, compromising his vision, and I think it really hurt him as far as his defense goes. He was catching a lot of shots that he probably wouldn't have got caught with if that eye wasn't steady being compromised with blood flowing to it. With all that being said, you can't take nothing away from Sebastian Fundura, man. He was able to withstand rocky moments early in that fight, particularly the first couple of rounds, and he was able to weather the storm. He was able to basically implement his new style of fighting, which is stand tall. He's about, 6'6"? Use your height, use your length, stay consistent behind the jab, control distance, land the 1-2. When your opponent's getting more aggressive, you smother his punches, you slow it down, let the fight happen in your style and happen in your pace, and I thought Fundura did a great job in that fight. Can he do that with a guy that's experienced as Errol Spence Jr., been in a lot of big fights, been on that big stage multiple times? This will be Fundura's first time on that stage. And he would have to go into Errol Spence Jr.'s backyard of Dallas, Texas, as that fight is being lined up to take place at AT&T Stadium, home of America's team, the Dallas Cowboys. And from what I'm hearing, the date that they're looking to lock down that fight is either October 19th or October 26th, as the Dallas Cowboys will not be playing a home game in either one of those two dates. So they're trying to finalize that date, but you should expect a very raucous crowd, a pro-Spence crowd. Fundura, I would imagine you have some of his fans coming out in big attendance, as Dallas is a huge Latino city, a lot of Latino population in and around the surrounding areas of Dallas. So it should be a great atmosphere, electric atmosphere, as Errol Spence Jr. be looking to bounce back from one of the most comprehensive beatings a fighter of that magnitude, a top two fighter pound for pound, because going into that Spence versus Crawford fight, I had Crawford as number 1 and I had Spence as number 2 as my top 2 pound for pound fighters. That fight was not only for undisputed at 147, but it was for the unquestioned pound for pound number 1 fighter in boxing, and Crawford put on a magnificent display, showed that he is the best fighter since Floyd Mayweather Jr. People want to say this to Canelo Alvarez era. Some people say we are now in the Tank Davis era. Make no mistake about it. This is the Terrence Crawford era. If you're talking about accomplishment in the ring, we talking about drawing power, attraction. Then we probably talking about Tank currently. We talking about over the last 10 years since Floyd retired. We talking about Canelo Alvarez in that regard. So we will see what happens, and we will see what transpires. You got both guys have one loss. Both guys have a lot of quality wins. As Fundura's beat some good guys, man. He's beating, again, Tim Tszyu. He was able to beat a lot of top guys on his way up. And he's a guy that's going to be looking to take another step up in competition in fighting a guy that's experienced with a great amateur background, a guy with the pedigree of Errol Spence Jr. A lot of people don't think Errol Spence Jr. is going to be the same after the comprehensive beating that he took from Terrence Crawford. We're going to find out, is we're going to get the Errol Spence Jr. that took on Danny Garcia? Are we going to get the Errol Spence Jr. that took on Lamont Peterson? Because those two guys are not the same guys. As the Errol Spence Jr. that took on Danny Garcia was still a top-level fighter, but he was not on the level, in my opinion, of the Errol Spence Jr. that beat Lamont Peterson, or the Errol Spence Jr. that stopped Kell Brook. I think he's kind of slipped from that point to that point. But can he at least get back to the Errol Spence Jr. of that fought Danny Garcia? If he's able to do that, then I expect him to have a great opportunity to defeat Sebastian Fundura, who in my opinion is a good fighter but not a great fighter. So we will see what happens, and we will see what transpires. Maybe the weight played a major part in his slow descension at 147, as he probably stayed at that weight class probably 2 or 3 fights too long. He gets to 154, he's going to be more fresher, more stronger, not as weight drained. Maybe we do see the Errol Spence Jr. that dominated Lamont Peterson, that beat down Chris Algieri. You know what I'm saying? That put a comprehensive sweet science style beating on Mikey Garcia. Maybe we do see that Errol Spence Jr. You know, actually that Mikey Garcia was the one when I kind of started looking at Errol like, man, this ain't the same Errol that dominated Kell Brook. It was still a high level Errol, and he showed a different side of himself as far as showing everybody I can box. You know, I was one of the best boxers in the amateurs. I just chose to come forward behind the jab, being aggressive, going to the body, looking to stop and break down my opponents. But I can't fight the style of the sweet science of boxing. Maybe he wanted to do that in that particular fight, but that was the first fight where I was like, man, he ain't the finisher that he was previously. You know, when he took on other guys like again Lamont Peterson and Chris Algieri and guys like that, and Kell Brook. And you know, the way he was beaten down and decisively outpointing Mikey Garcia, Errol Spence Jr. previously would have stopped Mikey Garcia. He wasn't able to do that. Maybe you attribute that to Mikey Garcia having a great chin. Mikey Garcia has never been stopped. You know, at that point, he has never been stopped throughout his boxing career. Now that he's a retired fighter, he's never been stopped before. So maybe you got to give up Mikey Garcia credit. But Mikey Garcia was a guy that was coming up from a lower weight. In his last fight, I think he was fighting at 135 pounds. And before the Errol Spence Jr. fight, his high weight was 140 pounds when he captured the IBF junior welterweight title. So he was a small guy coming up. And Errol Spence Jr. had stopped bigger guys. He stopped a real big guy in Kell Brook, who on fight day probably was a super middleweight. He was huge. He was way bigger than Errol Spence Jr. when they took on each other over there in the UK. Errol was able to stop him. So we will see what happens, and we will see what transpires. Let me know your thoughts about this particular matchup. It's going to be for, at the very least, the WBC junior middleweight title, and it could be, if he's not stripped, for the WBO junior middleweight title, as the 154-pound division is red hot, scorching right now, as #1 pound-for-pound fighter Terrence Crawford will be making his debut at 154 August 3rd when he takes on Madronov, who is, in my opinion, the best kept secret in boxing. This guy is an animal, very awkward, and he's got a come forward, fan-friendly style, and he has a determination to him that's going to be hard to stop. But Terrence Crawford is one of the best to ever do it. Power in both hands. Will the power translate from 147 to 154? I say yes, because it translated from 135 to 140. It translated from 140 to 147. As Terrence Crawford is on a, 11 or 12 fight knockout streak. I done lost count. It's so high, man. This guy is a special fighter. I've never seen the boxing IQ, the in-ring fight adjustments since Floyd Mayweather Jr. Terrence Crawford is a special fighter, and people need to give him his flowers now, as he's a no doubt about it Hall of Fame fighter, and has been the best fighter of this era. Make no mistake about it. So hopefully the winner of Crawford Madronov takes on the winner of Spence and Fundura. And if we get the best of both worlds, we get the rematch with Crawford versus Spence 2 at 154 for the unification titles at the end of 2024. Hopefully we get that, because that's the biggest fight. That's the fight that's going to draw the most eyeballs. Those guys have shown themselves to be attractions in the sport of boxing. As when they fought last year, it did 650,000 pay-per-view buys. So we will see what happens, and we will see what transpires. Follow me on Facebook, Gerard Briscoe. Follow me on TikTok, JB Sports New Media. Follow me on Twitch at BriscoeJosh77071. Like, share, and subscribe to JB Sports, the man, the myth, the legend, Yeah, I holla.